about the business of the county, that we do it in a manner that will help the community grow and prosper. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. First order of business for us today is to approve the agenda. Do any board members have any additions or changes to the agenda?
I got a question.
Yes.
The continuing lab examination, has that been totally scratched?
From the agenda, we won't have the full review today. It'll be in the next meeting. But I believe Sarah's going to cover that when we get to that section.
Okay, so there will be some.
Yes, we will have some discussion on that. Any other questions for board members? If not, we'll open for a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion from board members? All those in favor? And next we will move on to approval of the minutes. Any questions, additions, deletions from board members? If not, we'll open for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
That was Jim
Yes.
and Lori. Any further discussion from board members? If not, all those in favor?
Public comment, please.
No public comment.
Why not?
Before we, I would like to remind everyone in the audience, this is a business meeting and we will allow time for public comment when appropriate. Otherwise, no speaking out from the audience will be tolerated during the meeting. We will move on into the Continuum Labs examination update. Some of you may have noticed that Bill does not look quite like himself today. We have Sarah who will be filling in for Bill to give us the updates. Bill had a prior schedule conflict and we wanted to go ahead and continue on with the meeting. So Sarah's going to be filling in and sharing that information with us today.
Thank you very much. It's really a very brief update. As you can see, Larson Allen is not on the agenda. They are not going to be presenting the examination report today. They are still working on it. They are still receiving information as late as yesterday. So we will not be presenting it until they are at a comfort level that they feel they can come and present the entire package. Of course, it will have to go through their quality control department as well before they can even present. It has not passed quality control yet, so therefore we will not be having the examination report today, hopefully by the next meeting, or we can schedule a special meeting if at that time they come back and are ready to present. So that's all I really have on that. They are still working diligently on it to get it into a proper format that can be presented.
Sarah, can you elaborate a little bit? I know that some of the process, there has been some back and forth where, you know, in their QC process, they have some questions, so they either have to come back and get additional information, so maybe you can kind of explain why this is taking a little longer than anticipated.
Sure. That's absolutely the case. When we asked them to perform this examination, we wanted to basically see where the dollars were spent. In order to do that, it's not as simple as just looking at a bank account and seeing where they wrote checks to. There are multiple layers of financial records that Larson Allen has gone through, backup detail, payroll detail. I was told by Tricia and Mike that the documents that they have been viewing are some of the most extensive, precise, and detailed documents they've ever seen in any audit they've ever done. I mean, there is so much information. And yes, so when the quality control department has a question on a particular line item or section of the examination, they go back to Tricia, who then has to go back to Travis or his accountants or whoever to ask them to provide additional backup to support what they've provided. So it's just been a very rigorous process trying to make sure that they have tracked and followed every dollar that was expended through this project. And of course, the dollar amount being $7.25 million, that's a lot of dollars to track. So I hope that you can appreciate the massive amounts of documentation that Clifton Larson Allen is making sure that Travis provides so that they can adequately determine where every dollar was spent on the project. So.
Thank you for the update. I do have some additional information that I would like to share with the board members on exactly how the project is doing and what is going on with the project. I asked for some information this morning that would be okay for us to share so that you would all be up to date on what's going on with the project. My understanding is they have brought on an additional 7 new hires. They have an additional 9 offer letters that they have presented from this last round of funding that they were going to be bringing on an additional 20 employees. So with their current hires and the new positions, that should bring their payroll to a little over $48,000 per month or $578,000 per year. Bringing on the additional 9 employees, provided they all accept their offers, that would add an additional $224,000 a year in salaries alone, not including benefits. They are also still looking to hire an additional approximately 5 employees by the end of the year. However, they feel like their needs are going to continue to increase, so they're still seeking applicants and looking to bring on some possibly RNs and other medically experienced staff. So in total, that brings their average wage to around $31,000 on their full-time positions, which I don't know how other board members feel about that, but I'm fairly pleased with that as an average wage for this project, especially considering they're looking to bring on more professionals in the upcoming year. So that's all very good news. This should bring next year for 2015 their anticipated payroll for the year with benefits added, roughly about 12% added for benefits, to a little over $1 million. So I think that is a commendable place to be at this point for this project, and something that we've all been looking forward to see them get to the point where they are having a substantial payroll in Hardee County. Those are, let me clarify, all of that is Hardee County jobs, Hardee County employees. Any other questions about the examination or information provided on Continuum Labs?
I do. Is it gonna cost us any more as a board for them to continue working on this? I mean, if they give you an idea, I mean, this thing really taking a long time.
It is. They have not expressed to us that they intend on coming back and asking to increase the contract amount.
Vanessa, did they give you any indication maybe additional hiring next year?
Yes, they are looking for, even though they only have like approximately 5 jobs left that they need to hire for this year, my impression from our conversation was that they wanted additional resumes and additional applicants because they're at their rate of growth right now, and with additional investors coming on that they're speaking to for next year, there are going to be additional hiring needs. So, even though they only have 5 jobs remaining, they want to get as many applications and resumes in. Any other questions from board members? If not, we'll go ahead and move into our incubator manager RFP.
Okay, at last month's meeting, I came before you and discussed the policy and procedures manual that we were, creating, developing for Innovation Place. At that time, we also discussed the fact that we would be coming back to the board and seeking a motion to, send out a request for proposal for the incubator manager position. So today, I am coming before the board asking for that motion to authorize staff to develop the RFP for the incubator manager position in conjunction with the legal counsel, Ken Evers, bring it to him for final review, and then advertise the RFP.
So you're seeking permission to develop it and publish?
Yes.
Okay, you're talking about developing it and publishing it before it actually comes back to this board.
No, we can bring it to the board for your review. Yes,
I think that would be the best.
well, definitely, yes.
Because I'm interested in what you're gonna put on that RFP as far as asking these people their qualifications,
Mhm.
their resumes, information,
Mhm.
all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yes.
You know, when you start getting them in, what's the plan? Is the plan to, once you get these resumes or these applications, to bring them back and let us look at them? Or y'all just go ahead and pick the one you want?
No, the decision would be made by this board. You would be the ones who would review the applicants and make a decision,
Okay.
definitely.
I'm not certain we do the hiring. Ken, do you have any input on that?
The question was whether or not the RFP comes back to the board for award.
Well, his question directly was, will the board be hiring that person? Are they going to have any say as to who's offered the position?
For the manager?
Yes.
Yes, the board will award the proposal by the IDA. So the IDA will determine which proposal you award. It's like a bid opening, Donald. I mean, it comes back to the board for you to look at the proposals that were submitted and make the award.
So we'll basically like rank the candidates.
Whatever the qualifications are that are advertised, those are the criteria that you would apply as a board when it's presented and vote on.
What's the plan to send this RFP out? Are you talking about nationwide, Florida-wide, Southeast-wide, or what's the plan?
We will obviously advertise locally and on our website, but we also, in the times that we've done an RFP in the past, utilized a service called Demand Star, and that's a government, kind of online RFP. So yes, and that would reach nationwide.
So, Donna, would you like to place that in the form of a motion that you would like them to develop the RFP and bring it back to the board prior to publishing?
Yes, I move that the staff bring the RFP back to this board before it's published.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, let me go ahead and see, do we have a second for that? Okay. And back to you, Mr. Prescott.
Basically, he's gonna be doing the interview. Are we just gonna look at their resumes and that's gonna be it? That's how they're gonna pick one, or are we interviewing people?
I would leave that up to the board's decision. I personally would feel like that, however many candidates there are that submit an application, that they would come before the board, and present to you and give you the opportunity to hear from them. If you don't want to do that, then you could authorize staff to do that and then make a recommendation to the board. I believe it's completely up to you though, how you want to see that played out.
Personally, I'd like to maybe, if there's 50 applicants, I don't want it to be 50
Right.
people, but say the top 3 people that were picked, I wouldn't mind them coming before the board because.
And they could make a presentation.
Presentation, and then we could get our, amongst ourselves, discuss, and I think that'd be better for all parties.
I guess I'd make a suggestion suggestion that maybe we staff, work along with maybe the chair to call the applicants to a top 3, top 5 situation, and then bring those top 5 back before the entire board for a presentation.
I'd like to see that expanded to include a few more board members, but like I said,
Okay. Well,
You
we
can't
can
do
do
it.
that, but we have to advertise for a public meeting. In order to do that.
Sunshine law problem, that's the problem with sunshine law. You'd have to have a public meeting to do that.
I mean, we could do it on individual basis, you know, set up some sort of, round table where everyone is individually, able to interview those candidates. But I don't think that I think it's a good suggestion to have more than, one board member involved. Might be difficult if we had, everyone involved, but if you're interested in being involved, I think that, having 2 or 3 board members involved in that process would be a good idea to help narrow it down to the best, selection of candidates.
I might be willing to, I won't necessarily think of myself, I would just think to try to get more input into the process. I also understand the problem.
Are you looking for a job?
That's a me.
Can we get the talk into the mic, please?
You can't hear?
That better?
Barely
Okay.
can
We will
make
work
out
on
some
it.
of the words, yeah.
We'll work on it. Any other questions or comments from board members?
I feel very comfortable with having 2 members, discuss it with them, bring forth the next 3, the last 3 people or something like that, and I think that would expedite a lot of things, overall help the process of everybody their decisions.
And do we feel comfortable with top 3, top 5? Is there a certain number? Maybe it depends on how many candidates we get.
Why don't we make that decision based on the candidates, because we get 5 really good candidates, let's make the top 5 of the ones who really good ones. There's no reason to drag 2 others along just because we said we would.
Who's going to determine that?
Whoever, the board, or the staff and the chair.
All right.
We could probably narrow it down to more than that on a selection and bring back a spreadsheet of candidates and their qualifications. And then the board could decide if they wanted to see 3, 5, just depends on, who it is that rank at the top.
That should work.
So develop the RFP. We'll have to discuss that at the next meeting when we bring the RFP back, so we can clear that. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, on the incubator manager RFP? Okay, public comment, Mr. Coleman.
You're going for me.
How's that?
Much better.
Well, first of all, back when you wouldn't let me speak on the last motion on the minutes, my comment was, if you would take a look at the EDA minutes, the way they write those minutes, and they put public comments in there, it's kind of like a story, exactly what happens during the meeting. It's really a good idea, because then when you go back, it's for your protection as well as everybody else, because it shows that everything's up front. I mean, that's what I was gonna say, if you could work in that direction. Because the minutes that you put out are pretty vanilla, and it's all good news. And you're not getting any concerned citizens input or anything else. As far as the incubator goes, incubator manager, what happened to Miss Blum? I thought she was gonna be the incubator manager by default. That's all these meetings that we had when she was sitting here talking about that.
No, that was your perception of.
You made up that. You
That
made
was
that
your,
up.
that was your perception of.
So I guess was there an RFP for a Mr. Klein, Jim Klein that works out there at the incubator? Did you guys have an RFP for that? Doesn't he work there? Jim Klein, doesn't he work at the incubator? Stein, okay. Does he work there?
Yes, he does.
Is he on payroll by the IDA?
He is an employee of the EDC.
EDC, just like you, right?
Yes.
Gee whiz, facilities manager of an outfit like that, a project like that, looks like a big job to me. Why didn't you RFP that?
Do you have any questions or comments related to this?
Yeah, why are you RFPing for the incubator manager? Looks like, and you should have done it a year ago. How much money are you talking about? What are the qualifications gonna be? I mean, from the program that I heard you guys put out, at the EDA, this person is gonna have to be sitting at the right hand of Donald Trump. The qualifications that you said that person was gonna have to, because they're gonna be the marketing person, the salesperson, the go-to person for everything. Accounting, everything. Now, you're gonna bring in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people in here. What if you get applicants from San Francisco that are highly qualified? Are you gonna pay to bring them in here to interview? So this is the first time you've ever done this RFP. That's why you didn't know if you were gonna pick them, because you thought you were gonna pick them. He says he wants to take a look at them. He says you gotta bring them in. So all of this is up in the air. This RFP thing, you've never done it before. You didn't do it for Miss Chapman. You didn't do it for Miss Giuliani, right here, your marketing person that you hired for the incubator. You didn't do it for the communications coordinator. You didn't do it for Mr. Prescott's daughter when you hired her to be the manager of Continuum Labs. $4.6 million you spent on that. I mean, you should have RFP'd that.
So is your suggestion that we don't RFP for this position before we decide to vote on it? Is that your comment?
It's just coming out of, just dropping out of the sky, and I just don't understand it. And it looks to me like you're gonna hire somebody out there. If you hired Mr. Stein, or what, I guess I don't get it. What I'm seeing is, it looks to me like this whole thing got going down the road. Everything was looking towards Miss Plum, 662, and all of this stuff was going down that road. You were gonna do a contract, manufacturing contract. You're gonna give the fill line to somebody, and they're gonna run the show, and they're gonna be your incubator manager. That's what was presented. Now, out of the blue, we're gonna RFP for something. Now you don't even know how to do it.
Okay,
I'm just confused.
Mr. Coleman, your time is up, but I would like to clarify here, because a lot of your communication gets to be very confusing. It seems to me that you're being very critical of the fact that we did not RFP past positions. And now that we are having a discussion and debate in public, which is how we should perform this, to RFP for this position, you're being critical of that. So I'm feeling very confused by you and your comments as to what is it gonna take to make you happy, Mr. Coleman?
Did anybody RFP for Ms. Pelham's job? No. Did anybody RFP for?
Are you upset with the fact that we're RFPing this position, or that we haven't done it in the past? I'm very confused by your comments.
I'm confused by the mixed messages I'm getting
Do
from
you
your
want us to RFP positions? Yes or no? Do you want us to RFP a position?
I don't even know if you can RFP.
Do you, it's a yes or no. Do you want us to RFP?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Have a seat. Any other public comment? Mr. Kirkland.
For the record, Frank Kirkland, Bowling Green, Florida. I would like to try to put my feelings in here, and I would love for the public to know that this is just more, and I'm all for you doing RFPs. We've been raising holy hell about it for years. So I am for it. But I hope that it's for real and it's not just a snake oil show to kick some of the issues off your back. Thank you.
Okay, so to clarify on Mr. Kirkland's point, Mr. Samuels has made the motion that the developed RFP come back to the board, so that would be the first step in the process that will come back before the board. Furthermore, we had the public discussion that the candidates would be brought back to the board, ranked on their qualifications, and that the board would ultimately have the decision on who to hire based on presentations made to the board. I'm not sure how we could make that any more transparent or clear. I feel like we are trying to do the best that we can do to bring transparency, but if you're wanting to criticize, I'm not sure what more we can do to make you comfortable with the decisions that we are making. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Is there any other public comment? If not, we do have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor? Oh, yes.
Does he have to agree to all that additional?
We didn't add anything. I think
Not really.
we let me just go back and clarify. That's a good question. Donald's motion was to bring the developed RFP back to the board, basically for approval. The discussion we had today, we can formalize that in the next meeting when we look at the RFP and how we're going to publish that and how we're going to handle that. We don't necessarily have to do that today.
Yeah, it's my understanding, Mike, that it was already agreed by what Sarah said. I thought that that's the way it's going to be handled, that it would be brought back to us to do the looking at them and do the hiring. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
I
that's,
just thought the additional, bring him and interview him might be more than what she originally.
okay, but to me, what she said was fine, but I mean, that's the way I understand it, and what you're saying is, to me, is the same thing.
I mean, I think that's something we can certainly just direct staff to do. It doesn't give them the liberty to act on their own, so that's where we would probably need to put that in the form of a motion if it did give them the liberty to act on their own. So this is probably the safest way to present it at this point. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion from board members? If not, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, we will move on into project updates.
Continuing on with the incubator discussion, I was out at the building yesterday, and it continues to move along and progress. The construction on the interior spaces that are slated to be open for occupancy are near completion. The fill line area, as you know, is complete. They are working on the paddle sports section now. The electrical is being finished up Thursday, so that space is moving right along. He is very near being able to move in. They have one last piece of equipment that has to come in, a spray booth, into the facility, so they're waiting on that. So the interior is pretty much finished. The exterior has been before the Main Street Committee. We have presented it to Half Acre and have given them the okay to go ahead and begin soliciting bids to start on the exterior of the building. As far as the fill line area, the SOP documents that must be created prior to operating that facility are near completion. There are some, maybe 200, that have to be written. The license inspectors, FDA, require those SOPs to be on hand in files and have certain file paths attached to them before they will issue a license. So that is what the majority of the time has been taken up by, or completing those documents and getting them ready for inspection. So once that package is complete, then they will come in, do the inspection, inspect the documents, and issue the license, and we will be able to begin filling product in there.
Sarah,
So,
last meeting, we were looking at the program guidelines, policies, and procedures in the First Amendment. Is that going to be brought back at a later date to finalize those or look at those? Has the EDA looked at them the second time?
they have not had a meeting to review them a second time. I'm not sure when, if they even have. Do they have a meeting scheduled in the near future?
On what?
For EDA, do they have a board meeting called at all?
We got to reschedule one, but not at this point.
Okay, so they still have to reschedule their meeting, but I would anticipate that when they do reschedule that meeting, that yes, we would take the final policy and procedure manual back before them and, let them review it. And then we would also be bringing it back to this board for final.
Okay, so there is gonna be a workshop or a meeting or something
Yes.
on what was started last meeting about the rules and the policies and the guidelines and stuff like
Yes, sir.
that?
Mhm. Yes, sir. There will be.
Okay.
And that's also one reason we would like to get this RFP out for the incubator manager position, because that person obviously is going to kind of be the gatekeeper of that policy and procedure manual and working with the tenants, being that conduit between the board and the tenants and developing, their business. So I would really like to get them in and on board as soon as possible, so that as we're going through that policy and procedures and making any amendments or changes to that document, that they could work alongside with us in doing that.
I would agree 110%. I think that us having those policies and procedures in place are gonna be critically important. That's not something, we always have the liberty to make changes to that in the future, but we wanna make sure that the tenants that are coming in know what we are going to expect from them, know what they can expect from us, and I think it's important to have all of that as clearly defined as we can going into it, so. Any other questions or comments about the incubator? Okay.
I don't really have anything new on the Commerce Park expansion. So it's still progressing. There isn't anything major to report at this time. We're still working through some of the processes on that, but I don't really have a huge update on that.
What's the status of the lawsuit?
I do not know. I asked Bill that yesterday, in fact, and he was not sure, but I did ask that so that I could anticipate that. I asked Bill yesterday, anticipating that might be a question today, and he wasn't sure either, so.
Madam Chair, it's still pending. As far as I know, that case was assigned to Judge Smith in Bartow, who's the chief judge of the circuit, and we just had no contact, no communication at all, and there is no timeline in the rules by which he has to take everything into consideration. My guess is he works over between other active files or whatever, we'll hear when he gets ready for us to hear.
Thank you, Ken.
Delcom, we continue to keep communication open with them. They are still working with their investors at this time, making their decisions as to what their final resting place will be, if it will be here in Hardee County. So we do continue to reach out to them every couple of weeks just to make sure that they know that we are here if they need anything, if there's anything else that we need to be doing for them. At this time, and so we do have a good communication with them, but at this time, there is not anything that they are needing our assistance on, so we'll continue to reach out to them. Lorcan went out to the site yesterday, and if you haven't been out to the park lately, you should go. They started pouring the concrete. They're almost done. There's about 15,000 square feet of concrete left to pour, so and you should really go out and actually get out of your car and go stand on the concrete, because you feel like a little ant. It's massive. And I looked up online, did some measurements, because I wanted to know kind of what to compare it to. And the Florcan building will be the size of 1 2/3 football fields, to kind of put it in perspective. So you can kind of get an appreciation of how large it really is. So, as I said, I was out there yesterday. They're working every day. Pieces of the metal structure itself were starting to arrive when I was out there. So that's coming in. Everything's going along well, and we should be seeing like actual building going up pretty soon here. So, Continuum, Vanessa pretty much covered Continuum, so I don't have anything additional to add to that. Fort Greene LNG, we continue to keep communication with them. They haven't really again, ever asked anything or come before this board for assistance per se, but we do keep, some communication with them and keep the lines open. We speak to them almost daily, for one thing or another. They will be seeking out some enterprise zone incentives, and so I've actually spent the majority of my time working with them on that, getting all of those incentives in place for them. So we keep communication with them, and they feel that they really have a strong, presence and are really going to be quite successful. PFM, they are continuing to work. They, continue to make some hires here and there. They're pretty busy, and we talked to them. They've been looking for some residences here in the community for some of their new hires. So I feel like that's a positive. They've been reaching out to some of the local realtors I know, trying to find some housing and some rental spaces. So that's encouraging that the hires that they are making are actually wanting to locate here in Hardin County and move their families here. So that's pretty exciting. The operational audit, we continue to be on standby and answer any questions that they have. We have produced, multiple documents to them. We basically just await them to tell us what they need, and then we produce it. We haven't actually had anything that we've had to produce in the last week or so. They are continuing to examine and audit, and we will let you know as soon as they come to some conclusion or completion of their audit.
Any concerns or findings from them at this point?
Not at this point. They have not really expressed to us yet anything that has been a concern to them. I'm not sure how far along, honestly, they are in the process of even reviewing the projects that they are actually examining. But to date, they have not expressed anything that is of concern to them right now.
At this point, they're primarily doing the review remotely and asking you to send them documentation on everything. They're not actually on site in the office.
No, they're not. They're actually working out of here. So yes, they're working remote and are retrieving documents from us and doing their field work right now. So I would anticipate it. We've had a couple of meetings with them, sit-down meetings, to discuss some of the projects, but I would anticipate that after field work is completed and they have really reviewed all the documents, that they would come back and sit down again. And then that would be the time in which we would discuss their concerns or any findings. The financial audit, Charlie was here last week and doing his year-end reviews and amendments. He's here today to present some budget amendments to the board that we will be making. And then the financial audit with Clifton Larson Allen, they were here. They've been here since last week. Yesterday was their last day, actually on site, and they finished up their field work and were slated to be completed with the financial audit well before the deadline, which is June. And then the water sewer extension, I don't have a huge update on that one. So the surveying information that came in did go to Terry Ashley over at the City of Wauchula for review. They have really been the ones that have had the main communication lines with this project. So they're working very hard along with Olivia Minshew with the City of Wauchula as well. So, and that's all. Okay. And that's all I have.
Any questions or comments from board members on the project updates? If not, we will go ahead and move into our financial report.
As I said, Charlie is here with Wicks Brown to go over the financials and the budget amendments.